Okay, so this is Jake's Gearbox. It's supposed to be S&T or Aries. Looks more like S&T to me. I already see a few issues going on back and forth. I just opened this up, and right here, we'll zoom in on this. That's not going to do. So this needs to be MOSFETted or needs to be rewired. Yeah, whoever soldered that on there, they didn't get the whole wire on there. Deans aren't that great either, so I'm looking at redoing that. And the pinion, I believe mine was an O type, but the pinion was just off. When I opened it up, it was like this. So this is not even held on there. See how easily that comes off. Okay, so that's that. Just don't really have too much magnet power. On this, what I noticed right away, screw missing right here. That holds this in place for this to function properly. This is kind of going lefty-righty. That looks fine there. The bushing here looks bad. Bearing, excuse me. Bearing, bushing. Spur gear looks like it's down really far because the axle comes down. Axle up here looks high. These are just things I'm noticing without opening it up to really check everything else. We've got the spring here. And it looks like it hits the anti-reversal latch right now. So it could just be when it gets in the body, this is not fitting in there properly. Not sure. See the springs there. So everything else looks good on the outside. So I'm gonna try to grab a screw for this. I'm gonna go ahead and take this apart. I think I don't want this jumping out at me and then losing the parts. And I'm not sure how. I guess this is double screwed. I can't remember. Anyways, let's go ahead and remove the spring tension in the back. Let me get that out real quick. Now, he talked about doing this into a dual sector gear. You gotta check all parts too. This looks fine. Okay, so he's talking about doing this to a dual sector gear. And that's fine, but there's some things to consider. Wow, this is a... I'm not sure what kind of spring power this is. This should not be pre-engaging though. What you want to do is look at your spring guide. Looks fine. Your spring doesn't have any marks on it. And it looks straight. It doesn't really look to be an issue, so there's no issues there. Okay, so let's go ahead and take apart the rest of it. I'm going to undo this hex right here. Let's see which one will get up in there. Maybe he super glued this already. Feels kind of tight at first, but it came up. Okay, set that off to the side. Pull this out. Now this should come off. I guess this is connected now. This looks like it's connected here as one piece. This screw looks different. Different screw here, missing a screw here. This is a used gun, by the way, so he bought this used. Alright, let's put these things together. Okay, and let's get inside this. Definitely the spur looks low. And I know from experience the bushing here should be a bearing. These have got switched somehow. And on the other side, see there, right there, like I was saying, there's a bearing right there. Bushing. And the axles don't look the greatest right away, especially on that sector gear, so let's go ahead and undo these. Jake said as soon as he got this gun, he was shooting it, broke right away. He went to replace the sector gear on it, and I guess the piston stripped and then the sector gear broke. That's the kind of stuff I remember for now, without keeping some kind of documentation on every single thing. But it looks like there's some kind of tape at the front here too. Okay, in the back. And now there's no compression in the gearbox without the spring, so I don't have to worry about that. Oh, that's interesting. Mine's like steel. This is like a brass plate or something. Okay. And it's there. Okay, good. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and open. I want the other tool. Let's see this tool. This tool. Alright, so I'm going to push these down. Just the gears. You can see right there the sector gear is not sitting until it grabs the bushing, or the bearing, excuse me. And then just lift this up. Oh, that's interesting. They have removed the tappet plate rail piece right here. This used to hit into the old Aries gearbox shell. Right there, and you can see it's removed. That is interesting. See how it's gone right there? So they knew about their own issue and fixed that on the, I guess this is the S&T. So I'm not sure which gears are going to be stock in here. And it looks like, ooh hoo hoo. That don't sound so good too, huh? Ooh hoo hoo. Spring seems a little short to me, but it doesn't look modified, so it's just a short spring. Put that to the side and then pull this out, and right here. Okay, so I see he used a spacer. So this has got a kind of a heavy end, but actually this doesn't feel very heavy. So we've got definitely, this is pre-engaging, it looks like. O-ring's kind of tight, but that's okay. That's not at fault here. And these parts are interesting. Be a little bit different. Oh, the air nozzle doesn't seem to have any kind of O-ring on it. See if we can pull this out here. And this is some kind of mouse pad, it looks like. Is what he's using to correct angle of engagement. And some Teflon tape to help with the air seal. You can see some dirt in here, some kind of glue, it's weird. And this seems straight, so that doesn't seem to be an issue itself. And then this, I do not like, especially having these on there, but that's not what's wrong. So what you want to do is check everything. That seems on there tight, so there's no way that that could have been an issue. Get your spring out here. definitely not a spring issue. Oh, we've already got a tooth missing on the spur gear. Wow, I haven't done anything. You can see that there's a spur tooth right there. Wow. So we're gonna see what's going on here. This guy's had probably nightmares with this thing. So there's the tooth. Let's move the motor away, even though it doesn't have any magnetic power really. This to me seems similar to King Arms. It's an X, but this seems similar to my King Arms, which has a fracture through it just like this. That's interesting. Is that really a fracture or is that just hair? Nope, it's really fractured right here, but I think mine went off this way. Just to show that that's there. It's right there. So that's definitely fractured there. What happens when you have a fracture that comes up like that, sometimes the tooth doesn't mesh very well as it spins and it can snag. I don't think that'd still be an issue for pre-engagement. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull this up here. It's a JG gear. And it's missing a spur tooth now. There's some kind of, this is the plastic from the piston. I don't know how happy he'll be to hear that. Let's see what's going on. Let's see what is going on here. Okay. Cutoff lever still looks fine. Let's go ahead and take this out. The spring on the trolley is a little messed up. That makes me wonder if it's hitting into the tappet plate. As the tappet plate does it look stock? Let's get this on here real quick. Okay, so it pulls it back. That looks fine. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to hand spin this, and this does not feel like it's hand spinning the best. It's because of that fracture. Which could have helped make that spur tooth break, but we're probably going to totally take this out. Now we got to figure out why the piston is broken here. Is that spring just not strong enough? No, the spring feels plenty strong to me. Feels plenty strong to me. Okay, so let's check the shimming on this real quick. Pop this out. And I'm going to put the tooth over here for a second. Push this back in here. And just check the shimming on this. What I'm going to do. Stuff is loose, dude. There is something wrong here. Right away. It's not this side. This side. Okay, so I'll pull this back out. This is really loose. And I mean, that's not even holding in. This is probably spinning in place. So that's not good. Okay, so I want to check like hair or something. Grass. Probably grass is what this all is. Okay, there's a lot of particles in the back here. It looks like dirt, shavings. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and close this back up here. We definitely got the bearing seems to drop way too low here. How much up and down movement do we have? A little bit more than necessary there. Spur gear. Okay, I do see an issue right away. He did say this grinds on the cutoff lever, which I can see. But what's interesting is that it's not straight. Might be part of the bushing. The bearing actually it's a bushing because they've been switched. The bearing's over here. I don't know what's up with that. I would just take these out. But I want to show that looking at the gear, it's not straight. And that's an issue in itself. The gear should be straight as it rotates. Yeah, there's something wrong here because I'm going to go ahead and take the cutoff out and see if there's any type of resistance afterwards. Let's use the other screwdriver. And that's a small screw. Oh, that's weird. It's got like a hole or a dip or something. I'm not used to that, so some of these parts are just a little different than their previous. Just don't want to lose that, so take it out now. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to set these aside. We're going to try that again. Put this back in here. I mean, you can tell this is not the greatest put in here. Okay, now you can start to see that there is a lot of space, just to demonstrate. That's not going to do anything with pre-engagement, but watch the gear spin by hand. You can feel at certain points it stops. Now the question is that where the spur tooth is broken? That's strange, it went away completely. The gear is a little slanted. It's definitely a little slanted. It's coming down this way, down here. So as it's coming around, it's somehow trying to even out. It's trying to level back up when it comes to the spur gear. Okay, right here, yeah. I'm surprised there's not any swirl marks on the spur gear right now. There should have been. I mean, maybe this wasn't cycled very long or something. So, definitely the shimming's off whack here. There's a lot of space on this one. That's going to have to be redone. I'm just going to pull it out. So as far as resistance with the piston, I have not checked yet, but we already know there's an issue with the gears, the two gears there. This bevel gear may be fine. I don't see anything broken. I don't see unnatural wear. So this bevel gear may be fine to reuse. However, the bushings are going to have to come out. Or at least the bearings are going to have to be glued down. I'm going to have to look at that and make sure that they're straight. It's possible that the bushings have gotten worn down at an angle, or they're sitting in the shell at an angle, or the gear has worn down at an angle, or the axle is just not straight. There's these possibilities that have to be looked at, but it definitely does not look straight in the gearbox. So let's go ahead and try the piston. Okay, so you put the piston in. And even as tight as possible, if I was to hold this really tight.
Okay, I just finished, I had water coming left over, so I covered it up.
There's no way there should be pre-engagement there. So,
Okay, I'll bring the fruit I have then.
if there is no way to have pre-engagement there, how are you getting pre-engagement? Well, let's see what else could be going on here.
Okay, Zach, I'm early too. You got one be just before 5. Yeah, one of the resumes he sent out, the people wrote back and they did it within 2 minutes. They didn't send me that, so he must have sent it electronically. They said we don't take resumes from out of the area. Yeah, it's Los Angeles. You know, start his day well. Yeah. Yeah, it's in California. Yeah. Yeah, we didn't even look at it. Yeah.
This is such a tight fit that this is almost scratching metal to metal.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, bye-bye.
In a way that's good. Nope. Doesn't seem to be an issue inside the gearbox here. Okay, so what can I conclude from this? Let's see, that was done right. Okay. Okay, there's something going on here. We'll have to look at that more. Maybe the spring is just worn down on the trolley. Sector gear does not look straight while it's in the gearbox. It doesn't look parallel, which goes down into the spur gear a little bit. There's not really any swirl marks on this, but there is a tooth missing, which we already see there. There is a fracture on the back of this, which we see there. There is some old metal fragments. Yep, an old metal fragment in the sector gear's teeth. Oh, we need to check. Yeah, there's another one right there. Metal fragment in the sector gear's teeth. You want to make sure that those get removed. Who knows where they came from? Could have been the spur gear a little bit. Okay, so we want to check resistance with the sector gear. That's one thing I just remembered. All right, you put this in here. And then I want to check angle of engagement. Alright, so you put this in here. We're going to need to do this. We've got a full port here, probably for a short barrel, not the greatest thing. That's good for compression. However, like I said, there's no air nozzle on this. So air escapes out of there's no O-ring on the air nozzle. Alright, this looks straight. No. doesn't look exactly straight. Looks like that can move a little bit. Okay, so go ahead and put this back in. Put this in here, and the angle engagement was not bad. Angle engagement looks okay. However, there is a big however here. It looks like there's a possibility that the gear cannot reach the piston very well and slipped. That's what it looks like. So go ahead and close this. Look at how far back the piston has to go. So question's going to be, can the piston also I mean, this doesn't really matter, but I just want to check everything. Looks like it went all the way down to the feet, so that should be no problem there. Okay, so I'm going to recheck here. It looks like there might be an issue with spacing. The piston might be really high, the teeth, and it looks like it's barely grabbing. Because this is slipping like crazy. I mean, I'm not used to the slipping as much as it does here. Yeah, this looks like it's too high. The piston looks like it's way too high from the sector gear. Let's see here. Here's a gear with 3 teeth knocked off. These teeth are a little wider too. Okay, so put this in here. And right away this looks like it hits the piston better. Alright, so pull this gear out. We'll try another gear. G and G. Teeth look a little bit bigger on this still than the X gear. Okay, so put this in here. And that seems to mesh really good. Okay. Here's another. This is similar to an SHS clone. Alright, that looks really good. And compare again here. Teeth are a little bit bigger, it looks like. So what I'm looking at right now is this is barely catching. Barely catching. Okay, so here's another sector gear. This one's short stroke too. And again, put the gear in between. I mean, this is looks to be good. Okay, so there's 4 gears down. And then we're going to try to see what's going on here a little bit closer. I'm thinking that it's too far. what I'm thinking. Let's go ahead and remove this. Put this in here. I mean, it does barely hang on. So if that's true, then the angle of engagement, if you're correcting angle of engagement and it's barely hanging on, watch, let me demonstrate something here. Alright, you correct angle of engagement here. And it's barely hanging on, and you're already missing space from those teeth. As this rotates, it's going to mark those teeth. Come back. This is going to hit right recoil, and it catches barely. Those teeth are going to take some wear at the beginning, and there's too much wear gone. So now it can't catch. Instead, it spins and hits the back of the pickup here, taking off the pickup tooth. And it almost takes it off completely, so it looks like it could have skipped. Huge possibility there. There's something I want to make note here. We've got this, but no ball bearings. No ball bearings. In a high-speed setup, you need at least one set of ball bearings, whether it be here or here. The reason being is this spring is going to need to move. Well, I don't think that's anything of the issue. What's going on in this? In here is a possibility. Wish I can see if the spring could get stuck in the middle right here, but it doesn't look like it. So new piston will have to have ball bearings in the front. There has to be some type, because as this gets faster and faster, the spring has a lot less tension to turn. This can bind the spring and even break the spring at some point. So okay, so I got the bushings JB welded. They will dry for tomorrow. And then those are super glued and been replaced out. May ask why one of these doesn't look, one of them doesn't look right to me. So went ahead and just did that anyways. And then I'm looking at this again, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, you got to be 100% sure that it's skipping if you're going to say it's skipping. And it looks like it's skipping. I mean, I've compared these gears, and they definitely... Let me move that off me. Okay, so they definitely look like they could skip easily. There's a little close-up on that fracture right there. You can see right there on the right side. Alright, so anyways, as the plot thickens a little bit here, you got to be certain of things. So since this somewhat looks like pre-engagement, but it still looks like it slipped. I mean, if you look at it, it somewhat looks like it slipped, but somewhat looks like pre-engagement. So I'm going to, best case scenario, rule partly that maybe it can skip, and then rule partly pre-engagement. Reason being, so you cover both bases and you're good to go. So you got to doubt yourself. If it's not only skipping, how do you get pre-engagement? So I'm doubting myself to figure out what's going on. This is how you figure out the mystery of what's going on. So first things I look at is what I'm not used to. What I'm not used to is having washer on the end here with the piston head, and the washer is moving around. I'm not used to that. So I remove the piston head, and right away I noticed that the washer covers the piston head in a way that it just as tight as you want. If you want to put this on there as tight as you want, it still seems like it can move slightly. Okay, take this in consideration that only the screw is holding the piston head. Okay, so maybe there's a possibility here that this can move this just a little bit. Let's assume just a little bit. Now remember, I said that this seems like it's grinding metal on metal. So here, I want to show you something. This is without the O-ring. Okay, what would happen, you can already see right there, if it were to move just slightly? I'm trying to push this, and if it moves slightly, it can get caught right there. It can get caught. So there is a possibility that this is causing some kind of resistance. There is that possibility. So to rule out both pre-engagement, or not to rule out, to solve the whole mystery, you must get rid of everything and give a big thumbs up. So we're going to not use this, which I've already planned, change this out to some real sorbo, redo that, and keep this piston head, but I'm going to shave very slightly with sandpaper around it, just very slightly, so that even if it was to move slightly, I know it's not going to when I switch it out, that there's no possibility it can get stuck a little bit. So no resistance. So that was something new I noticed. That after I spent some more time, I came back and looked at it a little bit more. If I spent even more time, I'm sure I could probably figure out maybe a few little small issues, but nothing serious. As far as like spring power, looking at the trolley spring, but so I've already started putting things together, and I'm going to get this back together really quick, and probably within the next day or two we can have this done. So, but very interesting possibility that you could have pre-engagement from this. I mean, how much can the piston move inside the gearbox? Just depends. I'd have to look that over more, but like I said, if you just address both issues, if it's not really grabbing this really well, and if this is somehow moving slightly or somehow getting caught a little bit, scratching the inside of this, which I looked at, I couldn't really tell if there was scratch marks in there, but if you remove those possibilities, you should be a-okay. So I'll get to that as soon as I can. I am moving at a pretty fast pace, so out.